Hello, Dawn.
It's awfully quiet.
It can you hear me?
Yes.
Well, good. I was hoping you would be able to hear me.
Mm.
First time I've tried this with a setup since after trivia. So, Mm. So how are things? How's your anniversary?
Oh, pretty good, except pretty good.
Pretty good.
Well, no, Kristen texted me today and she's like, "Hey,
Oh,
would you mind being on call tonight in case
some,
we don't have a delegated med passer
oh my lord.
at work tonight. So, would you mind being on call from 11 a.m. to 7 a.m. in case somebody needs medications? You can quick run into work." I'm actually on vacation, but okay.
Jeez.
Hey, and by the way, can you come in at 6 a.m. so that you can do all the pass meds, the 6 a.m. med pass? Okay. I mean, yeah, I guess. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But it looks like you kind of had at least a decent anniversary. You guys went to what belts and did you
Yeah,
go look at
we didn't do a whole heck of a lot, but yeah.
did you go look at fish?
A little bit. We didn't go up to Weston.
Hmm.
Uh, we went and looked at DVDs instead.
I did see that he got a number of VHSs over from St. Vinny's.
Yeah, he got most of the Monpa Kettle collection. And then I haven't watched it because I only just picked it up today and I watched um Some Like It Hot with commentary instead of my new movies. But I picked
Oh.
up a copy of the new Suspiria because they had it for, $5.
Yeah, I gotta pick me up that from I gotta get me that from Family Video if they've got any copies yet. I saw that. They're like my main indie supplier. It's like
Yeah.
they got all kinds there. Uh,
Yeah. I thought about picking up they had Bonehill Road and they had
oh.
The Rake.
Oh, okay, sure.
So I did not grab those at this time because they were not on my list of, "Ooh, I need to see this right now,"
Did I see that
because
right?
I've
Did I
already seen both.
well, yes. Did I see that right that Nim is coming out with a new one?
Yeah, Chris Mim, Queen of
Yeah,
Snakes.
Queen of
I,
Snakes. Yeah.
he just got his shipment of Blu-rays. I saw that. Yeah, he was pretty excited about that. I've got to get a serious ordering pretty soon.
Lee Barrow. I love this because I am not a comics books fan at all, and I posted about how they're coming out with a Savage Avengers, and I may actually have to read the comic because Savage Avengers is apparently an unsanctioned Avengers team made up of Conan the Barbarian, Wolverine, Elektra, Brother Voodoo, the Punisher, and Venom.
Well,
I'm like, excuse me, I'm not into comic books, but this might actually make me get back into it because it sounds so crazy. I have to almost read this. And Lee Moreau commented saying, if I ever meet the person responsible for this team, more like Abomination, I will likely need to be restrained.
oh my.
Apparently another person, they said, wow, was it a Mary Marvel dartboard? It's like they went to 103rd grade classes and took a poll of favorite heroes. He's like, Brother Voodoo, the poor kid that pulled that out of a hat probably gets swirlies and loogie sandwiches. uh, and it's great because I'm not familiar with some of the, I'm vaguely familiar with the characters, but it sounds so crazy because it takes place in the Conan universe. Apparently, they're also doing a crossover with Conan the Barbarian and Scarlet Witch that takes place in Hyboria.
Ah,
I know, right?
my brain hurts.
I know, right? Like, I didn't even know Marvel had the, well, I mean, I shouldn't say that. I kind of remember that Marvel was the ones putting out the old school, Conan comics at one point,
Mhm.
but I hadn't seen him for a while. They must be trying to bring him back or something again. I don't know. I don't know if there's been Conan comics all this time. I couldn't tell you, but like I said, I don't follow them. But this just makes me, yeah,
Yeah. It's it sounds like somebody's trying to live out a childhood fantasy.
yeah, probably. I would suspect so, but I don't know. I for me, uh, I'm just like, yeah, I want to read it because it just sounds so crazy, and I
No
like,
pass.
and I know it's a surprise to people that I like really quirky, weird things. So that,
You
yeah, that probably won't be liked by anyone else. But that happens. Oh my god. There you go, Dawn. Prepare
what?
yourself. Mark Wahlberg could be the $6 billion man in the $6 billion man movie.
I would have been excited about that about 15 years ago.
Right? Seriously.
You know, what movie did I just watch recently? Oh, I rewatched, I feel bad because I feel like I'm such an ageist. But I just watched The Mummy, the new one,
Mhm.
and I could have really, really liked it, except Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
He was so inappropriately cast.
Yeah. He was. I mean, I still dug it, but I completely see it,
It
that, yeah.
I
It
like where they went with this story, but it was like it was like him in this was like watching a Nicolas Cage movie. There's so many Nicolas Cage movies where it could have been anybody else playing that part, and it wouldn't have made a difference.
yeah. Yeah, they could have put just about anyone, and the problem is too, they cast him in a period of time where, well, he's still not exactly liked now, but definitely he was kind of more in the spotlight when it came out, about the Scientology and everything, and there was even more bad feelings about it, and people are like, "Oh my god, what are they doing?" See, and it's disappointing because for me, um, I would have loved to see a, I would have rather just had, Russell Crowe for, Jekyll and Hyde. That was that was my favorite part of the whole movie was
Yeah,
when he was doing the whole Jekyll and Hyde shtick. I loved it. I'm like, hell yeah, I want to see that movie.
that was really good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think he was just so miscast because he he was completely age inappropriate.
Oh yeah. I mean, it needed to be an older folk person. I think maybe not so
What?
much. Or do you think it should have been a younger guy?
Way younger. He was
Yeah.
supposed to be active military.
Oh, that's true. He was, wasn't he? That's right. He was active
Yeah.
military. That's right. So
I mean, somebody age 40 tops. And
yeah,
even at age 40 in the military like that, most people at hitting age 40 are not, like, active like that. They're trained to a point of being too valuable to be in the field like that.
yeah, that's
Like a
true.
robin.
You have to be
Like a Rob.
like Robin, yeah, way too valuable to be in the field. But, no, Tom Cruise in The Mummy needed to be a way younger guy.
Yeah. Yeah,
And not Tom Cruise.
and not Tom
Exactly.
Cruise. Yeah.
Exactly.
He does his best. He's the best runner out there apparently though. He's running in every movie.
You know, the last movie I actually really liked Tom Cruise in was Minority Report.
Wow, that's going way back.
Yeah.
What about you, Glenn? Tom Cruise last movie?
Still Magnolias. That's Still Magnolias. What am I thinking of?
You're thinking. Now I want to see him and Still Magnolia.
Just Magnolia.
Magnolia. You're thinking Magnolia. Yeah,
Magnolia.
He was fantastic in Magnolia, though I don't think that character was much of a stretch for him. Yeah.
No, not at all.
I loved Magnolia. That was a great, quirky, multi-thread story movie that I liked. Unlike Shortcuts, which I wanted to gouge my eyes out for.
I mean, yeah. He was. I mean, in Still Magnolias, I mean, he was all right too.
You didn't see him, but he was there.
Well, he played Julia Roberts' diabetes. Is what he. So
I don't know. I think he kind of phoned that one in.
Great. Now I'm seeing a video where they look at Julia Roberts' blood in a microscope, and there's nothing but a bunch of Tom Cruise heads floating around instead of blood cells.
Oh God!
Well, I think I see your problem right here. It's a problem even Wilford Brimley couldn't help solve. I can take care of diabetes. I can't take care of cruisitis. Oh Lordy, yeah. Are you recovered there a little bit from the sleep dep yet, or Dawn?
A little bit. Mostly. I mean, mostly. I'm yeah.
How you feeling, Glenn?
A
little better?
Yeah. Mostly better. But
mostly better. Oh, that's good.
You're still pretty worn out, so
yeah. You're mostly harmless, so there you go. So sorry. Bad reference, I know. Did you watch the Star Wars trailer? Anyone?
No, I don't watch trailers.
I know you don't. What about you, Glenn? Did you watch it?
Yes.
Did you have like major Star Wars gasm like everybody who I've seen do trailer reactions for saw it?
No.
I'm making a prediction now, and maybe it's just because it's the old school Star Wars fan in me, but seeing Lando and Chewie in the Falcon, I'm like, that's gonna blow up.
I do like the fact that I'm gonna get my ship back over my dead body. Ta-da!
Yeah, that's a great meme.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, I like that meme going around. That's good. It's good they got him back, though. I remember him talking. Him talking at the Madison Comic-Con, the first one they had that I went to, the only one I went to. But he was there, and Billy D. Williams was talking to him. They were doing a Q&A, and he was really funny. But he was talking about, yeah, they might ask me back. If they do, I'd be happy to return. And the crowd cheered and that, and he probably knew back then that he was going to be in this one. But it was good to see him in the trailer and see him in that role again. Because the Q&A, he was looking pretty good. A little rough around the edges, but he was funny.
Yeah.
Shatner was hilarious. But it's Shatner. And then Michael Rooker was too. That was a fun time, but I realized why I normally don't go to conventions, because they cost money. You're fine till you go into the vendor area, and then you see all this cool stuff that you can't afford.
Yep.
Because they check. Oh, what?
Oh, I was just going to say I've been rewatching the early seasons of The Walking Dead, and
On
there's
purpose?
on purpose. And there were a couple of scenes. There were a couple of scenes that I'm watching with Michael Rooker, and I'm like, he's talking, and then there was a pause, and then I wanted to just insert, "Hey y'all, I'm Mary Poppins."
Yeah.
It would have been so much fun in that.
That would have. I don't have to. I'm a completionist, but I have to watch the whole war, because the last season of Walking Dead I watched was just as they kicked off the big war with Negan, like the big war, and then Z Nation. I got to watch the last season of Z Nation, because I love that show. I don't care. I'm not afraid to admit it. It's fun.
It's stupid, but it's fun.
It's what I want out of my zombie show.
I just liked Michael Rooker.
But yeah, Walking Dead, Michael Rooker was really good in that too. So, oh well, The Walking Dead, they're doing spin-offs already, and they've got Fear the Walking Dead, which is now starting to overlap The Walking Dead, and they're doing crossovers because
it's the problem with Fear the Walking Dead. I tried watching it, is that as soon as you get into the logistics of the zombie apocalypse happening, it completely falls apart.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's like, how many zombies does it take to stop a tank? The answer is only when it runs out of gas. That's what stops the tank.
Yeah, right.
It's like we have tanks and helicopters and stairs. So I think it was summed up best with the problem with the slow shuffling zombies is that it's like their number one food source. It'd be like if us as humans, if the only thing we had to eat were lions, and we had to fight them barehanded. Oh yeah, and they drove Humvees and had bazookas. It's no.
I still like my lumbering zombies, but
they're fine. But logically, they completely don't make sense on how anyone gets caught by them, unless you you walk down a dead end alley, and then like, oh yeah, and all I have is a pocket knife. Oops. But
I really love my schlepping zombies, because I always think that the thing for them is they just never stop. But I totally see that angle. For me, I'm accepting of the fact that you might have fast zombies at first, but as time goes along, they turn into schlepping zombies.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is that those of us up here, December hits.
Oh yeah.
There's that book, The Zombie Survival Guide, where he says, "Oh no, people up north will fare worse because we'll get all complacent when the zombies freeze and then they thaw out, and it's like we'll forget." It's like, okay, we know things thaw out, and you also don't seem to realize the second that first freeze hits, we're not going to be huddled up inside. We're going to be like, I'm going to put on my snow boots and some flannels, and I'm going to go out there with the shovel, and I'm just going to play some zombie baseball and just be taking heads off because they're frozen solid.
Or sledgehammer and play zombie croquet.
Yeah.
Zombie croquet or whack a zombie.
Whack a zombie. That's a fun game.
Whack a zombie, and then we can take the heads off, and then we can go curling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I totally would see Stevens Point Curling Club curling with zombie heads. I could totally see that.
You're absolutely right, Glenn. You can tell that was written. The whole concept was made by somebody who does not know how to deal with winter.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was not written by someone who was.
It's the same person. What was that stupid fucking movie with the Vikings come to North America? They leave behind a baby who then grows up with an Indian tribe, and the Vikings come back and he helps them fight the Vikings off. And there's the thing where all the Vikings are falling through the ice because he's like, oh, they know winter, but they don't know the thaw. I'm like, they have spring in fucking Norway, dude. If they didn't, they'd never be able to leave. That's how their boats leave.
I want to see that on a T-shirt now. They have spring in fucking Norway, man.
Oh God.
Oh shit. Okay. We'll talk some like it hot and work some trivia into there and such. And I'm not sure where we're going with this, but we'll keep her till an hour for everyone. So try to. So yes, my friends, we are back after a 2-week hiatus. We were preparing ourselves and experiencing the wonderful thing that is the world's largest trivia contest in Stevens Point Trivia 5.0. And with every contest and every year that we have been doing this podcast, we like to cover the movie that was played for the trivia movie. And tonight I have a couple of my fellow trivia team members from Freaks, as we were called this year. First off, we have the diva of the spoiler room. She is with us once again. It is Dawn. Hello, Dawn.
Hello, Mark. Hello, Beth.
So glad to have you here with us. And then next to her, yes, it is Biff, the BFD himself. He is back with us, Glenn Bittner. Hello, Glenn. How are you, sir?
Hi.
So glad to have you back.
Mr. Bittner.
Happy birthday to you. Yes. We are talking about Some Like It Hot. It was our trivia movie this year for the contest. And those who aren't familiar with the world's largest trivia contest or have not caught our past trivia episodes, basically a week before the contest, they play a trivia kickoff movie. And then during the contest, which is 54 hours of trivia nonstop, questions being read over the radio, they will ask questions in particular about this movie. And so you have to study up on this film to make sure you try to know everything possible so you can answer the questions and get valuable trivia points. So for those who may not be familiar with Some Like It Hot, would you like to give the synopsis, Dawn?
I suppose.
Could you please?
Oh, gosh. Okay, so we have Joe and Jerry, who are Prohibition era musicians, and they are playing in a funeral home. You're not seeing my air quotes, which is owned by a gangster, and they sell coffee. Again, the air quotes. So they, okay. Things happen. Funeral home gets raided. They need a job. They need money. They're out of money. They go to their hookup, which is a whole other thing. And one of Joe's many lady friends suggests that they join this band, which turns out to be a girl band, but they can't join the band because it's going to be a girl band, because it is a girl band. So instead, they're supposed to go to some other place. And well, I'm really getting wrapped up in this a little way more than it needs to be. In any case, they end up borrowing this girlfriend's car, witnessing a fantastic reproduction of the St. Valentine's Day Massacre, end up joining this girl band anyway because cross-dressing Tony Curtis and Jack Lemmon are a phenomenal thing to see. Once they join this girl band, they run across, they meet the third member of this dynamic trio, Miss Sugarcane, played by, of course, the extremely memorable Marilyn Monroe. Things happen. Joe and Sugar fall in love. Jerry and some other guy fall in love, and shenanigans.
And shenanigans. There are many shenanigans. and a number of surprises, I will say for myself, for a film that was made in 59. Yeah. Glenn, do you remember when you first saw this film?
Oh, man, a long time ago, probably in college.
Many moons ago, when the rivers ran full and the trees were bright. No, just kidding.
Yeah, I think it was spring. So
yeah. What'd you think about this? Because this has been rated as like the top comedy, I think, by the American Film Institute top 100 comedies. It's like supposed to be the top comedy. How'd you feel about it when you saw it?
I mean, it's all right.
Mm-hmm.
I saw it in college, and I hadn't watched it again until just earlier this week. So, it's an all right movie. It's, it's not like anywhere, on any list for me.
Right.
So, yeah. It's better than White Chicks.
It's better than White Chicks. I do believe that's the Criterion Collection subtitle on it. Dawn, how about you with this film?
I've never been a huge Marilyn Monroe fan, but I've always loved this for Jack Lemmon's performance.
Yeah,
this is one of my favorite Jack Lemmon performances.
Yeah, he really gets into the role, and it's funny, we talk about remakes all the time nowadays, but it's actually been a staple in film in Hollywood for many years. Even back in 59, this was actually a remake of I believe of Some Like It Hot from 39, was it? I think there was another version of this film, if I remember correctly, reading up on it. I could be wrong, but I do believe this was a remake.
I don't think so.
Was it?
I don't think so.
Or maybe I'm crossing my movies. Because
it had a lot of homages to like classic gangster films, and it really poked fun at them. But maybe I don't think.
No, there was a Some Like It Hot from 1939 with Bob Hope and Shirley Ross. And
oops, that's not what I intended to do.
But I was wrong. I may edit that out. No, I'll probably leave it so I can sound like a dork. That was same title, completely different movie. So there was a 1930 film called Some Like It Hot. But that one involved Bob Hope as a fast-talking sideshow barker and a wax and alive concession stand on Atlantic City's boardwalk. So completely different film, but same title. So there you go. Hence my confusion and my error. So who knows? Shows you what I know. But so we have Jack Lemmon. You really enjoyed Jack Lemmon in it. I like this film quite a bit as well. This I had watched. I don't remember the first time I watched it. I think I ran across it when it was on the cable, like Turner Classic Movies once. I watched it and enjoyed it. And then watching it again now for trivia, you pay a little bit more close attention. Plus, you end up watching the same movie about 2 or 3 times. So you get a little bit more familiar with it. And I'm going to say, I mentioned it, I think, when we were watching it in the theater, Don, but this film felt at least a little progressive for the time it was made. Would you say that, at least for a few of the characters we end up seeing in this film?
A whole lot progressive. Yeah. I mean, not just for the fact that it was a period piece, but for a lot of the things that they did for 1959.
Right. Because it's supposed to be set during Prohibition, but which we knew was the wild times. But even for the wild times, they make a number of statements in here. I mean, we have, I think one of the best ones that I like is when they had moments in this film where they had the guys really come to light and realize how women are treated. And like Tony Curtis was a womanizer to begin with, and suddenly he's seen the opposite side of things, though he isn't in that role that long. But
you're talking about the bellboy.
Yeah. Yes, the bellboy. The bellboy who keeps hitting on him. God. It was just great. Oh man. Yeah, but I mean it's one of the things for sure was the dialogue between them when they were complaining about how do they walk in these shoes, and the guys, they only want one thing, they're all hands. And it's like,
yeah,
it's like, that was you guys just like, before you started dressing in drag. And Glenn, what do you think? Would you say this film is fairly progressive for 59? And
I don't know if I would say it's progressive.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, having some guys dress in drag, that's really not that big of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because they in no way allude to these guys as not being guys.
Sure.
The only progressive part would be the very last line of the movie when he finally gets up with that one guy. He's like, "Okay, I'm really a man." He's like, "Well, nobody's perfect." That's about as progressive as it gets. But I mean, the fact that it's some guys dressed in drag, I mean, that's not a big deal. It's
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how often have guys done that in theater and on the screen on stage? It's nothing new.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, before that, it was only used like briefly and for very clearly comedic purposes, like dressing in, because they had mentioned it during the at the very beginning where they had dressed in earrings or dressed in hula or wearing coconut bras, just like very vaudevillian. They hadn't done it quite like this before on film. This was the first time they had done like a full 90 minutes of this 2-hour film was Lemon and
Tony Curtis
dressed in drag.
All right.
So, and you know what? I think it's what I liked was for 59 here you have two guys learning this perspective, and you actually have dialogue in here where they're addressing the fact that they're getting this perspective, which you're looking at some male characters and they're actually like, wow, we only want one thing in that. Though Tony Curtis's character doesn't take long before he gets out of drag, because once they travel in the train and they meet Sugar and he's learns about what Sugar likes, he immediately turns into a fake persona of a rich millionaire who belongs to Shell Oil. And I was doing some reading up, and he is actually mocking a specific famous character during that time. I believe it was Mr. Dean. Was it Dean Martin? He was
Cary Grant.
Cary Grant, that's what it was. Cary Grant. Apparently, Tony Curtis proposed the idea to the director, and they loved it, so they ran with it. Glenn, what did you think of Tony Curtis's faux Cary Grant character?
Oh, that was good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was so obvious who he was channeling for that.
So he did it so well too.
Well, yes, he did. Yeah,
you do that well too. You could pull off Cary Grant, I think. So
perhaps.
But yeah, I mean, Tony Curtis, he's having fun in his role as he seemed to be more comfortable. It's funny because if you watch the characters, he seems to be more comfortable, though, making fun of Cary Grant than he was in Drag versus Lemon, who really seemed to get into it. Maybe it's because Jack Lemmon was more of the comedy guy. Don, what did you think of these two? Did you think that maybe he was a little more comfortable in wearing the drag during the movie than Mr. Curtis?
Oh, definitely. He was, he totally embraced it. And the funny thing is, he was the difference between the two is even though he was dressed like a woman, all of his body movements and everything about him was still very mannish. Mm-hmm. Whereas when Tony Curtis was dressed like a woman, it was very tense and prim and uncomfortable, and it came across as very hoity-toity, ladylike. Mm-hmm. Everything from the and the really weird falsetto. Yeah. Whereas it all came across as very stiff and ladylike, and the upper crust, and
definitely someone who went to a conservatory.
Exactly. Yeah. The Sheboygan Conservatory.
Our famous Wisconsin Sheboygan Conservatory of Music. Yeah.
Yeah. They turn out ladies of jazz.
Ladies of something. I didn't even realize that they had, a conservatory in Sheboygan until I watched this movie. And then I'm like, oh man, I went to the wrong school apparently.
I also loved Jack Lemmon's description of how women walk, specifically Marilyn Monroe. She's like Jello on springs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you could see him trying to mimic that, and but very mannish.
Oh, of course, yeah. I mean, very, very mannish, but he tried his best. That's for sure.
Yeah, he really did look like a man pretending to be a woman, rather than, a man trying to mimic a woman. Yes. There is a distinction there, and the distinction is how Tony Curtis did it versus how he did it.
Yeah, you could just see which one was just more into the role. I think I think Curtis couldn't just wait to get out of the drag. Now, yes, we do have a Miss Marilyn Monroe Sugar character in here, and Glenn, how'd you feel about Sugar?
Yeah, I mean, I've never been a huge Marilyn fan. Mm-hmm. In most of her roles, and I mean, for the role they have her play, she's fine.
Right.
And I mean, I did kind of like the fact that she complains about all these guys who are no good, who would borrow money from her and then lie and all that stuff, and then she meets this rich guy, quote unquote rich guy, and then she's all like, "Oh yeah, I'm totally rich too," and yeah, absolutely. So it's like she kind of complains about these guys being players, and she's kind of a player herself, in a manner of speaking. So I mean, I like that they didn't just play her off as just this. I mean, she's not bright.
No.
But then I don't really think the guys are all that bright either.
No, the guys aren't too bright. She's not too bright, but at least they're very aware of how they are, though.
Yes. Yeah.
And I liked that part of it, is that, she was very aware that she got weak in the knees for a saxophone player. She knew exactly how she was, and that's why she was with the girl band, she said, because that way she wouldn't be tempted to fall
with a sax player.
With a sax player, yeah, which of course, Tony Curtis's character was a sax player, so of course he immediately gets ideas. Of course, Jack Lemmon's Jerry also had ideas, or should I say Daphne? But yeah, they're at least all aware. I mean, Jerry and Joe are both aware of how they are too. I mean, no one really is at least clueless the way they are, and they just have kind of accepted the way they are, and decide to play to their strengths, right, Dawn? Like Sugarcane and her strengths.
Yeah, absolutely. They all really did very excellent in the roles they played. They really felt like a long-term comedy trio.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, they each did their parts extremely well, and they had a lot of synergy.
Yeah, they do. They played off of each other very well, but I think especially Jack Lemmon, I think he helped lead the other two, especially though with that, because I think would be very hard not to be able to play off of his energy that he just brings to the Daphne character. Especially when they get into the hotel and he meets up with Osgood, who played by Joe E. Brown, and this character, he would easily fit into today. Glenn, our Osgood good fielding. What'd you think about this guy? He's the guy creeping on Daphne.
Yeah. I mean, he's fine. I like the character, and it's because he's totally. I mean, he's super rich, but he's also very obviously this well, he talks about mother.
Yeah.
So I mean, he's obviously this big mama's boy as well, and he's been married how many times? So he's a fun character, and it's fun. Sorry,
it's okay.
The kind of dynamic that they develop together.
Mm-hmm.
He's kind of like it's like, hey, I can push this a bit further. Sure, why not? I mean, why not? What's the worst that happens? He's had other wives, so yeah, fine. So I mean, I like that. I mean, I actually like that dynamic better than I like with Sugar and
Joe.
And Joe, yeah. So
yeah, I actually like the dynamic and the relationship between Osgood and Jerry / Daphne as well. That one was a lot of fun, and it was really fun watching Jerry kind of get into his role played of female. That was, again, kind of surprising for this film. Dawn, what did you think of this relationship that they had?
I find it amusing that so many people enjoy, including myself, enjoy that relationship more than the Joe Sugar relationship, because the only reason that relationship exists is to create a situation for Joe and Sugar to get together.
Right.
And the only reason it works is because of the extreme talent of both. Again, both
Joe Brown
and Jack Lemmon. And oh my God, the dancing scene was just, I loved it. I loved it.
Oh,
they said a thing and then they did a thing. I loved it.
they did go dancing.
And they did blindfold the band and do the Tango Until Dawn.
That they did, and that was great because right after that scene, he's talking about how he's getting married.
Engaged.
Yeah, he's engaged. And Tony Kurt and his buddy Jerry's like, dude, he's like, you're a guy. When before he was saying, you're a girl. I mean, Joe was saying, to Jerry, you're a guy. What are you doing? And he's just like, yeah, I had a wonderful time. He got totally lost because they had such a good time together. And apparently, I guess Jack Lemmon, they taught him how to tango. So for that, specifically for that role, as you can tell,
leading.
But he kept leading. Yeah, apparently, they took hours to teach him and Joe Brown how to tangle properly, and it worked so well on screen. I think these two, and just in general, yeah, the chemistry between those two I enjoy a lot more, because the Tony Curtis, Marilyn Monroe, that whole thing, Sugar and Sugar and Joe, that was kind of like your standard. You're like, oh, that's kind of your traditional thing, and then you got this thing with Jerry, Daphne, and Oswald that just is this completely odd pairing, and those two seem to get along better. Actually, they're more odd, quote unquote, honest with each other, if you will. I mean, so they don't hide anything from each other. Now, we move later on. We've also got the villain, the gangsters, in here, who are, I think, quite hilarious. I love the name Spats, and we do get kind of this heavy moment with the duplication of the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. And Glenn, how'd you feel about Spats, our villain, and this scene that's kind of entered into a comedy?
Yeah, it's interesting. Where they even try to, it's almost like they try to make it kind of funny. It's like, hey, and you got the one dude, the minion, I guess you call him.
Yeah.
Where it's like, the guy's like pumping the gas, and they come in, they don't like notice him at first till he like kind of makes noise, and then he's like, hey, why don't you join us? Like all like, they got this kind of like goofy, voice, kind of moronic sidekick. And it's like, hey, this is funny. Oh, machine gun everybody. Like, oh, okay. Interesting twist that you're gonna have there. Okay.
Yeah, and if you don't recognize that it's kind of replicating the St. Valentine's Day Massacre, you're missing something. And yes, I'm dropping trivia because this was during the trivia movie, but apparently they were very concerned about kicking the toothpick out of Toothpick Charlie's mouth once Spats offs him. So apparently, after about 10 takes of missing, the director goes over to show him how it's done and proceeds to kick the actor who played Toothpick Charlie in the head.
Oh, jeez.
doing the exact thing the actor was afraid of. I'm like, wow. That's hilarious. But I thought it was a bit of a dark scene. And then you get the dark scene later on. I mean, you get the comical thing where the gangsters realize that the witnesses are in Florida because comedic happenstance, and they're chasing them around, and that's hilarious. And then they get to the big meeting of all the gangsters with, was it Bonaparte?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who was a great character who had like the old school hearing aid.
He was the equivalent of Little Caesar.
Yeah. Yeah, he was. And then they do this thing where they off Spats at his crew, and I'm just like, holy shit. I'm like, I'm laughing, and now you get this like serious gangster moment again. Don, well, how'd you feel about these kind of two dark moments within this comedy?
Again, it's one of those firsts kind of things that happened. Before this movie, death was not a funny thing. Mm-hmm. It was not used in comedy. And in this film is one of the first times that they did that. This film was one of the first times that they did that. And, it was handled well, but it definitely has improved since then.
Yeah. With the types of movies that we have coming out now, makes you wonder exactly. Well, I was reading somewhere that they said that the very first showing of this, people walked out and people gave Billy Wilder suggestions on what he should reshoot. And he said, yeah, no, this is just the wrong area of town to show this film in. And then their second showing apparently was fantastic. People cheered and applauded. So
Actually, I heard a interview with Jack Lemmon, and he Billy Wilder did actually cut one small, like 1 minute scene.
Mm-hmm.
But that was it.
But that was it. Well, you know, so I guess that's not too bad. But at least he kept it for the most part the same way.
Oh yeah.
You know, and then Marilyn, I'm not sure. Just she did some good acting, but I'm not sure if it was too much of a stretch for her character, unfortunately, because I was reading up on how she was having a lot of problems with her lines, Dawn.
She really was. She really was.
Did they talk about that in the commentary at all about?
They did actually.
Mm-hmm.
They got into it quite a lot. Being pregnant going into this movie, the fact that she had endometriosis, and the fact that she did okay during the comedy, the lighter scenes,
right.
But specifically the one scene when after Junior dumps her, apparently trying to play that dramatic and emotional of a scene hit too close to home for her between the pregnancy hormones, the endometriosis, and all of her abandonment issues. Really affected the fact that she couldn't do that, and it took 47 takes.
Yeah, I was reading.
And then even then, there's rumors that she didn't actually get it right, but they voiced it over.
Oh, really?
That's one of the rumors. But in the commentary, he said that they actually had taped the lines inside all the drawers so that she could read it from there.
Mm-hmm.
And there were other scenes too where they actually had to have the script taped to objects so that she could read it in order to get through the scenes. And they were all the more serious scenes, not the comedic scenes.
Right. Well, you know, go ahead, Glenn. Were you going to say something?
No.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, you could tell the comedy she's really comfortable with, but the serious scenes, yeah, there is, you could tell that there was, a little bit of problems with those more emotional scenes. That's why I did like how they put some comedy, and maybe that was them tweaking it as well. The first time that Tony Curtis posing as Shell Jr. Gets Sugar alone on his yacht, which is actually Osgood's yacht, which you know, they managed to do some shenanigans to get on there. How that romance scene is actually played comedically. It works. But thinking about that, maybe that's why they did it that way. Because, it just, you could tell there were some difficulties in those more serious scenes. Now, the rest of the cast around them, I thought, were great. They really got a great supporting cast, not only the gangsters, but, you know, you get the girls as well in the band. And, yeah, I think it's fun. Again, I'm not sure if it would be, I would put it at number one on the funniest movies of all time. At least it was in 2001. But it is humorous, and it's just interesting to see. I think this still, with a few tweaks, would work today. I mean, people have tried to copy the formula, but this exact story we haven't quite seen. Glenn, what do you think? Do you think this specific type of story, do you think it would work today, or do you think since it's been done many times that people would just go, oh, yeah, here we go, another cross-dressing comedy?
I mean, if they did it right, it could work. The problem is that I don't know. It'd be hard to do because they I don't know. They just.
What if they kept it a period piece back in the, you know,
possibly. The thing is, it would be hard to do without a fair chunk of it coming across as offensive. Oh,
because everybody would find something offensive in it.
That's a big part of it, but it's also just the, you know, it's, you know, and a lot of it, so much of it, it's been done before. You know, how do women walk in these heels? Well, it's, you know, heel toe. That's how you do
it. Glenn knows. Glenn knows how to walk in heels.
Yeah, I had to do it for a play once. So.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah. Well, I was playing a superhero, and I needed boots, like some tall, like leather like boots, and there happened to be one of the girls on the volleyball team who was like 6'3", had these like boots that were actually almost my size. I could squeeze into them, but they had like a 3-inch heel on them. So I had to learn how to walk in those so I didn't kill myself getting up on the stage.
That's awesome. So you could kind of relate to these guys and the troubles.
Oh, yeah, sure. Well, yeah. I mean, I had to wear tights for that too.
Oh, so, did you?
Yeah.
Do you remember the name of your character?
I was Captain Titan.
Captain Titan.
Yeah.
Big T on your chest too?
No, I didn't have a big T on my chest. I had it was really in college. I had a school football jersey.
Oh, okay. Wow, I learned something new with every episode. That is, you need to reprise that role sometime, Glenn.
Perhaps.
You can wear flats if you want. You don't have to wear heels.
Whatever. They make my ass look good.
To which another trivia moment here, folks. According to rumors, when they were doing fittings for the costumes, someone mentioned to Marilyn Monroe that Tony Curtis had a better ass than her, to which she opened her blouse and said, "Yeah, but he doesn't have tits like these." So, oh man, to be a fly on the wall during production of this film had to definitely be interesting. So yeah, there was a lot of trivia, of course, in here as well. We've already mentioned just some of the things, but Dawn, how did you feel about this being a pick for a trivia movie?
Well, it was very, very tangential to this this year's trivia theme, which was, Trivia 5-0.
Yes.
I mean, it did take place on a beach resort. There was one scene on the beach,
and one on a yacht. So I guess,
and one on the yacht. Yes. So I suppose Jim Oliva, the fellow who runs trivia, did the fantastic tease of the posters he put up around town was very clearly the Jaws poster without Jaws.
Yes.
So that was one heck of a good tease he put up there.
Well, and it gave us false hope because Jaws would have been great too.
Jaws is great.
Well, no, I mean, it would have been great for a trivia movie. Yes, Jaws is great. No questions asked there. But
yeah, I mean, it goes with what he's been doing for a while now.
Mm-hmm. Do you think this was a better fit than the Butch Cassidy film last year?
Definitely more trivia in this.
Yeah.
So much more trivia in this. And the funny thing is, the real great parts about this movie is all of its dialogue, but it has some really fantastic visual comedy as well. So definitely, as far as a trivia movie, a better trivia movie.
Yeah, I thought so. Glenn, how did you feel about this being a trivia movie pick versus maybe a few of the past ones?
I think it's fine. There's plenty of little tidbits you can get out of it. So, but I mean, with what they do with trivia, you can find trivia in anything.
Yeah.
So, because it's, and I think it's accessible enough too, which is good. Which they generally do. They don't pick these, super obscure. Let's find this movie that only played, at like 3 art house theaters in 1974 in the Greenwich Village.
But he used to.
He used to, but I mean, he's gotten where he's got stuff that it's I guess got a bit more of appeal's the right word, but just you can find it.
Well, and part of the reason he did that is one, because they would get these indie films that were hit or miss. you weren't quite sure what you were going to get. And so sometimes people came out like out of Ice Storm and going, what the fuck? Going, what the hell did we watch? It's like it didn't really put people in a good mood. When you pick classics, at least you know what you're getting.
I think he's also had an increased turnout since he started doing classics. I mean, he as much as I loved seeing Bubba Hotep, and I really did love seeing Bubba Hotep on the big screen, I really think the theater has been a little bit. There's been more people showing up, not so much to the midnight showing on the Friday night, but to the Saturday afternoon and the Saturday night movies.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, it's the reason why he increased it to 3 showings.
Mm-hmm.
Is because they were actually having to turn people away for once, which didn't always happen with the others. That, and he didn't want to encourage people to download the obscure indie film.
Yeah.
Because that, with the rise of the broadband and the internet, suddenly it was coming relevant that people were seeking it out in nefarious spots because you couldn't find these obscure indie films somewhere. So, and I always thought the classic films fit better with the overall spirit of trivia, because watching some of those indie ones were painful. Some of them were okay, like Bubba Hotep. It was great. Was it Dr. Orloff? Was that one was?
Oh yeah, Dr. Orloff.
That one was pretty funny too, but not all of them were funny. Some of them were dramas, which I didn't think quite. I mean, like heavy dramas like Georgia, and I mentioned Ice Storm, which, oh man. But with the classics too, he opened it up more towards, I think, for families to actually, stuff that you could, for the most part, bring your kids to, versus Ice Storm, which had a swingers party in it. And you're like, how do I take notes on this?
Yeah, I remember one of the early trivia films. Well, early. In 90s was and now of course I'm not going to remember it. The one with Hugo Weaving and the bus, and they're driving across they're in Australia, and they're all gay men.
Tuong.
No, Hugo Weaving. Priscilla, Queen of the Desert.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. There you go, yeah. Yeah, that does not seem much like...
He's definitely changed how he does things.
Yeah.
Which is, good. Changes.
Well, yeah.
Especially in trivia is good.
Especially in trivia, you know what you're getting. It's accessible. And it's fun to revisit these classics. And for those of you out there who may not have partaken in the world's largest trivia contest, shame on you. But if you're wondering what types of questions you get questions like, what was the brand of cigarettes? Was it the box? What was written on the box of cigarettes used by Polachek in the film?
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, folks. Polachek is a agent that Joe and Jerry use. They're the ones that eventually, as Don mentioned, his secretary is the one that hooked him up with the job and gave him the idea. But he's smoking a pack of cigarettes, and he puts the box of cigarettes on his desk. And it's only there for a little bit of time to where you can actually see the full name. But the answer was Chesterfield's.
Yep.
And you have to take notes on that. And you have to take notes on everything, like the address for Mozzarella's funeral parlor, which was the Speakeasy, and
what kind of coffee did they serve?
Yes, what were the 3 kinds of coffee that they served at the Speakeasy?
Yes, there was sour mash coffee, there was Canadian coffee, and was it bourbon coffee?
Scotch
coffee. Yeah, Scotch coffee. So you get questions like that, or The big one, which was great for our team, because it was a combined notes. It was like our notes combined. What was the name of the two lakes on the trains that Joe and Jerry were going to ride on with the band? And there's one, Dawn's significant other, Sheldon, he had taken notes and he had written Lake Mary. Whereas I had Lake Pryor, but I didn't have Lake Mary, and he had Lake Mary, but he didn't have Lake Pryor. So we were able to cross check our references, our notes, and we got the answer right. But that's the type of stuff that they ask in trivia, and that's why I love it.
Oh, but it doesn't stop there,
No,
because it's not just about the movie. It's about the whole going to the theater and seeing the trivia kickoff movie experience.
Yes.
Evil man that he is.
He is an evil man, because one of the questions during the contest was, hey, you saw the trivia movie at the theater. I wonder if you paid attention to what was in the lobby. What animals were on the weather vane on the one sheet poster in the lobby of Rogers Cinema the night of the trivia movie?
Yeah.
To which I go to the theater enough, I was able to answer it. But
there were so many, and there's so many one sheets in posters and displays up there that it gets, especially when you're seeing the midnight movie and you're already excited about this, you're not really looking necessarily.
No, you're not thinking of it. And I just took a guess because it was the only movie I knew was out, which was Dumbo, and it ended up being elephants on a weather vane on a poster in the one sheet in the theater where they showed the trivia movie. That's just part of why we love trivia, and I love they picked this film, and it's a great contest, though it was bittersweet this year, wasn't it, Dawn?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. But we still have, again, changes good in trivia. I'm gonna hold to that.
Well, I mean, Oz, when he took it over, 40 years ago, he changed the contest for the better. And now I'm curious, now as he slowly backs away from the responsibilities of trivia and hands it off to a new trivia question writer, I'll be interested to see how things play out. Glenn, do you think that's going to change maybe how the top teams place in the coming years, since everybody's spent so much time trying to figure out Oz? Now that they're going to have a new guy to try to figure out, do you think that might change the standings a bit?
Possibly.
I hope so.
So we don't get the same 15 teams in the top 15. Well, top 10 at least. It's almost every year now, because they've figured out the way Oz is thought out.
Well, it's because they're all such a close-knit group of friends.
Yes. Which we are as well. Our team is. And that's the experience is why I like doing it. I've heard the horror stories of literal horror stories of some people who have gone to play on one of the top 5 teams, and they're like, yeah, that wasn't fun for them. It was fun for the team. It's fun for the team. The way they play, that's how they play. That's how they enjoy playing. More power to them. But, I've got to give lap dances to Dawn occasionally. So,
God.
My wife.
Yeah, but I wasn't the first one you gave a lap tap dance to. That was Kelly.
No, Kelly. He. It was so worth it hearing him. Okay, too much. Which he shouldn't say such things, because that just encourages more.
Encourages you, yes, it does.
I'm a horrible person, but luckily he didn't go running away screaming. So. So yes, there's various ways you can play the contest, folks, and it's what your group feels like doing. I mean, we used to be, I think, a lot more. We've gotten a little bit more relaxed in our elder years, but I think that's not necessarily a bad thing. It all depends on what you want to do, what your goal is. And me, I just love having fun with you guys. All there, getting to, rest my head on the BFD for some time, and spend some quality time with Glenn.
Yeah.
As everybody wants to do that.
But everybody does want to do that, and I've probably caused my team a lot of therapy bills, which Dawn, my wife, says you can send the bill to her, and she will.
I have that in writing.
Yes, you do. You have that in writing.
I have it in writing.
She will cover your therapy bill after that shenanigan. To which
I wonder who would have gotten the bill with your little joust there. I thought somebody was going to get hurt.
What, between me and Mark jousting?
Yes.
Yeah. No, we're careful enough. We knew better than to stab one another, though. What was that? That was Saturday night. So you're living on about 3.5 hours sleep over the course of some 30 hours. Maybe jousting with 2 large sticks isn't the best idea at 3 a.m.
I mean, the only saving grace was that neither of them was particularly sharp.
No, it would have probably just bruised really badly, but
yeah.
I love trivia, and I love you guys, and I love doing these episodes where we can reminisce a little bit about the weekend. Dawn, did you have a favorite question or something that he asked about the movie, or just during trivia that a question that you particularly liked?
No, we already addressed it, actually.
Oh, we did. Oh, which one was that?
The Dumbo one.
Oh, yes, the Dumbo one. Yeah, that one was really tricky.
Because those are the questions that really kind of pull it in, that proves that he wants it to be an entire inclusive experience, which is really, really unfortunate for the distance players, because it guarantees that those distance players are not going to get it. Just like the question from the alumni book.
Oh my God, the question from the alumni book. That one,
yeah.
Oh wow.
I mean, just like, but the thing is, just like any other book, if you don't have the book, you're not going to get the answer, and therefore it's fair game. But
at the same time, yeah,
the book was for sale just outside of registration, and it was a choice whether or not to pick it up, and I didn't.
Not for the price that they were selling it for.
Well, I also didn't think too hard on it either.
Yeah.
And I probably should have.
Yeah. Should have possibly seen where else maybe to get it. But yeah, the alumni book question got me. Glenn, for the parts you heard in the contest, did you have a favorite question or one that you particularly liked? Or
the one about the coffee, because I like my Scotch and Irish coffees.
Mm-hmm.
And now I want to try some sour mash coffee.
And Canadian coffee?
Yeah.
Now, what was the Canadian coffee reference? I got the sour mash, and I got, of course, the Scotch.
Canadian whiskey.
Oh, whiskey. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so Canadian.
Canadians still had booze, so you could have it, smuggle it across the border.
Mm-hmm.
Or across the Great Lakes, because it was in Chicago. So come in on a boat, get your contraband that way, I guess. For me, the one that I liked and the one that we got was one that, again, goes with what you're saying, Dawn. Not so much inclusiveness, but a question for those who he knows records the contest.
Yes.
There was a question. It was like hour 20 something. I forgot, or hour 30. Anyway, it was a question about, no, that was Sunday night. That's right.
It was Sunday night.
It was Sunday night. So we're in like hour 40 because it's 54 hours straight of trivia, folks. And we're like in hour 40 something. And he asks, during hour 17, we played 2 songs from a recording
I know this
duo.
one because I got the question right.
You did get the question right. And so what was that recording duo? So in order to get that, you would have had to record the contest, or at least record what songs were playing during the contest. And Dawn, who was it?
It was Jan and Dean.
It was Jan and
Dean. And the thing is, they were played they weren't like played back to back. They were played at two different points during that hour. So as we're going through hitting each of those songs, and we got to the second surf song, yeah, I recognized it was Jan and Dean. I never get music questions right. I was so excited.
Yeah, you got that one for which was great. And so yeah, it's stuff like that. And here's hoping we do still have a contest next year. I think there will be. It's a big enough event, if you have not seen it, in Stevens Point, that it takes over the entire town. And we now have a trivia weekend declared
by the
governor of Wisconsin. So the second weekend in April has been declared trivia weekend, which is awesome because they've been doing it for
also known years. As second winter weekend in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Second winter. Yes. That's exactly what it is, considering we had not quite as much. We had about 9 inches, but nasty freezing rain, as well as rain and sleet and ice. And that whole week before trivia, folks, we had the entire seasons. We had summer, spring, we had spring, summer, winter, and fall. Not in that order, but they all occurred the week before. Yeah, there was a lot of snow on the ground. Luckily, it wasn't snowing during the contest this year, unlike last year. So that was a plus, but it still is one of those things where you're like, oh man, because they usually picked this time of year because it's when the things have thawed by then. You know, it might be cool, but you don't expect to have 12 inches on the ground.
Yeah, no kidding.
So, second winter. So yes, folks, I'll put links in the body of this. We'll wrap it up for the night. And you should check out trivia, and you can listen to it streaming thanks to the interwebs and play remotely. But if you do, you'll need a boots on the ground and point to really enjoy the experience. And Glenn, any of you final thoughts with trivia, or what you'd like to tell folks about trivia?
It's fun. Do it.
There you go.
Give in to peer pressure. Join a team. Eat lots of food that you shouldn't probably eat. But it's okay because there's also a veggie platter. Nestled in between all the chips, Swedish fish, and Slim Jims.
The Slim Jims were quite popular this weekend, I noticed.
Oh my God.
I had 1 or 30.
We did so much better this year, though. We really did.
We did do better on our food this year. We went through a lot more veggies and such, and those jalapeno scones or biscuits. I don't know what you call them, but they were
pickle
good.
Cupcakes.
And there were pickle cupcakes, and we still have a couple of those, along with some of the Orange Dream cupcakes, and the delicious whatever bacon frosting, whatever you made, Dawn.
The maple bacon muffins, cupcakes.
Oh my God, those were so good.
I missed those.
Yeah, there was, and then there was the biscuits and gravy, and they were jalapeno and cheddar.
Pulled pork.
And the pulled
pork. The pulled pork.
Yeah, Lisa brought that, right?
Lisa brought the pulled pork.
Yeah, that was.
Casey and Kelly brought barbecue meatballs, and that was really good.
Oh, those were good too.
Wait, no, they did the meatball subs.
They did the meatball
Sharon
subs.
And Aaron did the barbecue meatballs.
Right. We had
God, so much good food.
All the
if we
food
could just back
good.
off on the sweets. I mean, the actual candy. We actually didn't have quite as many chips this year as we've had in the past.
We hardly had any chips this year, and the chips we did have, I think mostly were handled by the kids. I don't think many of
I know I had way too many jelly beans.
Yeah, I poured myself a cup of jelly beans and was grazing over the weekend, so there is that. But so there you have it, folks. Dawn, your experience with trivia, final thought.
Everybody should play. Should find a team that you love and treat them well and do what you do and have fun. And just because you don't think you're good at trivia doesn't mean you won't be good at this.
Yes, because you never know what's going to be asked, and you might be someone who has that one bit of knowledge that you'll be surprised no one else in town has, and it gets you valuable trivia points.
Maybe you watched Huff and Puff and Stuff. No.
Yes.
Huff and Stuff and Puffin, Huffin,
HR. Huff and Puff. No, not Huff and Puff.
Maybe you're a Marty and Sid Croft fan and can actually say these words that I'm trying to say and fail.
There you go. You're a Sid and Marty Croft fan. You watch a lot of kids' TV. Who knows? But guaranteed you will probably be able to answer at least a few questions during the contest. And that's all it takes. The minute you answer one question correctly or you get it before anyone else on your team, you're going to be hooked and you're going to want to do, you're going to want to do more. And yeah, because once you get that one taste of victory of where you answered first, yeah, there's no going back.
And this is nothing like bar trivia or Trivial Pursuit.
Oh God, no, this isn't. This is 8 questions an hour, 2 songs a question normally to answer, call in, and it can be about literally, as you've gotten from the examples tonight, anything. Whatever Oz and Eck, they could have walked past some flyer in summer from some hotel, and they will answer a question off of it if they find it interesting. And that is no exaggeration, is it, Dawn?
Not at all.
So, yeah, and they still throw in, but not all questions are impossible either. They put enough in there to keep it fun. So you're not constantly going, crap, I don't know this one, or crap, you can't find this one. They do keep it fun, but, you know, for the diehards out there, they throw out those challenging ones where you're just like, huh? It's just like,
I love the ones that the very, very, very few that nobody gets.
Yes. Yeah, there are a few questions occasionally where you have like 9,000 to 12,000 people registered as playing, and not a single one of them can answer the question.
It was one of my first trivias, the final question. I don't remember the exact question, but I remember the answer. It was something like where Oz talks about how people who know him know that he's a big fan of circuses and circus history. And he talks about some magazine from some circus magazine from the 1930s. And he says, and in the middle of it, there's an ad for a circus clown troupe. What's the name of that clown troupe? And I will, to my dying day, remember the Happy and Sappy Monarchs of America. And I'm like, the only way anyone could have ever answered that question if someone said, hey, wait a minute, I've got a bunch of old 1930s circus magazines in that box over there. Let's go look.
Yep.
So, because that's not like one you just go, oh yeah, let me just do a Google search. Circus ads 1930s.
Yeah.
You're not going to find, oh yeah, here it is.
Yeah.
Also, remember to have your safe search on.
Safe search is very important during trivia.
Yes.
Yeah.
Trivia is rather family friendly.
It's family friendly, but the internet isn't. And depending on how you choose your wording, you could go into some dark places in the internet.
Yeah.
Real quick, too.
Yeah.
Well, and it's one thing is we all noticed it is, your search engines, folks, have changed over the years. Let's put it that way. It actually used to be a little bit easier to look up stuff on the internet than it is now. Because now you could have 3 people put in the same words and they'll come up all with something different.
Yep, because there's so much information out there.
So much garbage and so much good stuff. And to find that one nugget is a lot tougher. But that's why you should form your own team or join a team. And because once you get a variety of people, you'd be amazed at what you can answer. I think the good one was last year during the music question. There were 2 different guitar riffs, and I believe it was Casey who pointed out that no, that's not the one from Kansas. That's Stacy's mom. And she's like, yeah.
Yes.
And she was like, and it was from Stacy's mom, and it was actually she had more information. Apparently, it was the one that Kansas actually sued them over because they thought they had sampled it because they replicated it so well. But she knew the difference, and it was like, holy crap.
Yep.
And yeah, that's part of the fun of and the experience, as they put it, of trivia. So
yep.
Hope that was wet your whistle, folks. Thank you, Dawn and Glenn, for still recovering from the weekend and still taking time out to talk about this contest that we love. So now there's a point where these fine folks can shill themselves and tell you where you can find their stuff at when they're not here. So Dawn,
I'm so tempted. So tempted.
What? Go ahead. What?
The information you want to find. Well, you're going to post it anyway. Never mind. You can find me at intheaudience.net.
She wanted to do it in the form of a question.
No. I wanted to do 90fmtrivia.org.
Oh, there you go. You can plug them, 90fmtrivia.org. Yeah, check it out. You'll get to see a little bit, at least, a taste of this contest. And Mr. Glenn Bittner, please tell the fine folks what else you're working on.
Right now, I ain't doing shit other than work. But I mean, I am always tinkering on some of my game design stuff. And I do have, if you're in the Milwaukee area on July 13th and 14th, you can come to GlenCon and play games with me, or just come to my store and play games with me all the time. Otherwise, just find me on Twitter at Guy in a Bunker. That's where I spend most of my time now. And when I do post updates, I mention on there if I do. And then you can find them on my gaming stuff on Facebook.
Fantastic. Yes, folks. So next time you're in Milwaukee, make sure you check out him, and you can go play with Glenn. Glenn will let you play with him. Depending on the game, you may need to buy him dinner first. So, but
BYOL.
There you go. And on that note, we'll just say good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.